Hey everyone, second hike of the day, late afternoon, around 4:20 p.m. Saturday, July the 14th. Earlier we did an out and back hike in the Mountain Lake Wilderness to Wind Rock and White Rocks. Then we drove back down Mountain Lake Road and stopped at the Lodge, which is a nice resort famous for the film Dirty Dancing. And we had a late lunch there, which was very good, but the service was slow, so we were at the tavern for over an hour. Anyways, we are hiking up the short but very steep Bald Knob Trail leading to the summit of Bald Knob, which is the highest peak in the Salt Pond Mountain Range in Jefferson National Forest. This is on quite a few lists, such as county high points, range high points, and prominence lists on Peak Bagger and List of John. And should have great views from the top of the New River Valley once we get up there in 10 or 15 minutes. But it's climbing around 800 feet per mile just straight up. Seems a little bit steeper than that, honestly, but thankfully it's short. After that, we're gonna maybe do a loop around Mountain Lake, which is one of only two natural lakes in Virginia. I think it's the only natural lake in the mountains. And then possibly bag peak 4250, which is along the old golf course road. And it also has views. So should be about a 5 or 6 mile afternoon hike. We'll see. It's already tiring us out. So this is either the true summit of Bald Knob or what's listed on the sign, because my GPS coordinates from online put the actual summit a little bit north, kind of where those towers are. But this is where the view is. So I'm going to stop here for a second. The sign lists it as 4,365 feet. Online it's 4,361 feet. Either way, it's the tallest peak in the Salt Pond Mountain Range and the 7th most prominent peak in Virginia, over 2,000 feet. Definitely would recommend coming up here in the morning because the views in the afternoon are completely washed out by the southwestern sun. Otherwise, it'd be pretty spectacular views of the New River Valley. Harrisburg is down here somewhere, and in the distance the notch is the Narrows, which is at the West Virginia border, and the New River flows through there. This big ridge towards the south is Paris Mountain. The AT climbs up that south out of Harrisburg. Towards the west southwest, this big ridge, the high point, is Butt Mountain. I hiked to the top of that I think about 3 years ago. You might not be able to see it, but there are communications towers on top and also an old lookout tower. You can reach that by hiking to the Cascades on Little Stony Creek and then up to Barney's Wall and keep going on the Forest Road. This long ridge towards the west is Peters Mountain, which I was looking at earlier from Wind Rock, and it's hard to tell because Potts Mountain is about 200, 300 feet below this elevation, but I believe the Mountain Lake Wilderness and Potts Mountain is towards the west northwest. Thinking this area on the left side or the west side of the towers might be the actual summit. Either way, there's some open rocks here, and even though there's power lines, We have a nice clear view to the northwest that's not washed out by the sun. And I believe we can see the mountain lake wilderness pretty well from here. I'm thinking that this little notch is where the road passed through and where the parking area was, and this point is Wind Rock, and then this whole flat mountain is Potts Mountain, where we were hiking earlier. And then the long ridge in the distance is Peters Mountain. I'm going to show you the free map that is provided by Mountain Lake Lodge. It's in color too and has really good descriptions of all 20 miles of trails in the Mountain Lake Conservancy. I'd also like to point out this land is separate from Jefferson National Forest. It does border the National Forest, but it's still run by Mountain Lake Lodge. So we started right at the main entrance, Mountain Lake, and followed the A Red Trail up to Bald Knob, cut across the summit on the Black Trail, and then we took the orange trail named the Moon Jumper Trail, which is a really cool name, by the way, or Moon Stomper Trail, both cool names. And currently we're on the Green O Trail, which is the Bear Cliffs Connector Trail, and we're going to drop down and encircle Mountain Lake the long way up towards the north where the water end is. And then either we can return to the car or jump on this old golf course trail in black, which goes to a rank peak, and also there's supposed to be a really nice view where that camera is. It depends. Overall, these trails aren't too long or difficult. We've been following the trail that loops around Mountain Lake, but it stayed in the trees above the rim of the lake, unfortunately. But there's this little connector towards the north end of the lake, providing really good views of its entirety. Mountain Lake, I think, is the only naturally occurring lake in the mountains of Virginia, and maybe all of the Southeast, because I don't think there are any naturally occurring lakes in North Carolina, Georgia, or South Carolina. There might be in Tennessee, but very small lake, just about 3,800 feet. You can see the end of the Mountain Lake Lodge poking out to the left, and then the towers up there are on top of Bald Knob. So this is only 500 or so feet below the tallest elevation in this region. And over the years, this lake has gradually lost height or depth. It doesn't seem to drain through any streams overland. I think it drains naturally underground through fissures and limestone. And it seems like these banks are at least 25, 30 feet above the current level of the lake. And all of that end, the high end, is kind of marshy and exposed. But it's a really cool area. This is the Indian Trail around the lake, the full loop. Definitely the opposite of what I expected. I was fully expecting some sort of easy flat greenway, since the lake is just below the lodge and seems like the perfect opportunity for a paved or gravel path. But no, this is the most rugged technical trail we've been on, and it's just 50 feet above the lake and below the road. And it's only 6 o'clock right now. This is how dense the rhododendron tunnels are on the west side of the lake. It is really dark under here, and 20 feet away is blue, bright sunshine. So this is one of those trails that just completely, not exceeded my expectations, but it's just the opposite, complete opposite. the Mountain Lake Lodge. Beautiful stone structure, prominently featured in Dirty Dancing. Before we end the hike, we're gonna go check out the paved boardwalk to get a view from this side. It's amazing how much of Mountain Lake has dried up, or the levels have fallen, however you want to say it. Seems like we're about half a mile from the upper edge of the lake, way up there. Took about 10 minutes to walk down here. All this ground is firm now. Really nice little inlet stream. Kind of reminds me of the Rockies or the Cascades. I'm gonna walk out to that spit. Walked out to the edge of the lake. Seems much smaller, more pitiful from this angle than it did from those boulders where I was on the other side of the lake. Still really cool, fun to walk out here. Water is very clear, shallow at this end. You could easily see some large trout. There's Jonathan up there. He didn't want to come with. The lodge and Bald Knob. Actually, a sign on the trail out here said this is the only naturally occurring lake in all of the southern Appalachian highlands. So I was correct. That is the only natural lake in the southern mountains. It's around 6:40 p.m. We just finished the hike back at the gift shop. We decided to skip the peak bag and hike out to the view from the old golf course road, because that would add approximately 2.5 to 3 miles. And we thought it'd be a little bit too much time to end the day. So instead we decided to do a leisurely hike out to Mountain Lake and back. And all in all, it's a good day to explore this area. I think the two highlights are Bald Knob and the lake. We hiked for around 2.5 hours, and I'm not sure how much ground we covered, probably around 6 miles or so. So I hope you enjoyed that and the previous hike, and see you guys next time.